Welcome to Your Town. My name is Susan Shillinglaw, and I'm the director of the National Steinbeck Center in Salinas, California. This morning, I'm going to be talking with two artists and a scientist. I like to always bridge the gap between art and science in what I do and in talking to people, because I think it's an important connection to make. So I'd like to introduce Janet Whitchurch, who is an artist. She's working on a Salinas River project. And so I'd like to ask her first what brought her to this project. She's been an artist for a long time, taught art, and is now working on a book on the Salinas River.
Well, I've always loved the Salinas Valley. Even as a child, we used to drive through on the old 101 El Camino Real on our way to Southern California for our summer vacations. And I always just thought it was so beautiful, and that people kind of, there's so many beautiful areas in Monterey County. Salinas Valley kind of comes in down the line. And at one point I thought about writing something for the New York Times travel section, because they used to have a little travel report from different people. And I think that was in the back of my mind, and I was speaking to an artist at the American Academy in Rome, where I was as a visiting artist, and she said, "Oh, rivers are the least explored areas in the world." She was doing a project with the Tiber River, building a boat to take a trip down the Tiber. And I thought, I had just moved to Monterey County from the San Francisco Bay Area and Santa Cruz, and I thought, maybe that would be an interesting project.
Oh.
So that was kind of how it started. I'd also really always loved the work of Karl Bodmer, who came with an aristocrat from Switzerland in the mid-1800s and traveled along the Missouri and Mississippi rivers and documented what he saw. They didn't have photographs, so he did beautiful watercolors and drawings. So I had that in the back of my mind, as well as I was going to document an undiscovered river, the Salinas River.
Oh, very interesting. Well, it's a subject close to my heart, because I actually spent some time looking for the source of the Salinas River with my husband. It's near Pozo, California.
Yes.
I don't know if you've been to Pozo yet. Have you?
Oh, I did. I actually did the same thing you did, and I checked it out, and I'm so grateful for the internet because I just put Avenales Ranch in, and it eventually came up with the name of the people who lived there. And so I have been up there twice. Extremely beautiful,
Right.
very beautiful area of California. I think probably the same as it was.
And have you done
200 years.
paintings of that area,
Yes.
where the river begins, and Pozo and the
Yes,
ranch?
I have a photograph of the actual source. As the Steve Sinton, who lives up there, said, "Oh, it's nothing much," and it isn't. It's just, you can tell that that's kind of where the river begins. And then I have a number of them further along the river towards Lake Santa Margarita.
Well, it's an interesting river. It's the longest subterranean river west of the Mississippi. I know that from research I did, and Steinbeck calling it a sometimes river, because before it was dammed, it used to be above ground and below ground.
Yeah.
So, and it meanders. It's very difficult to get access to the river, however, as it meanders through Soledad, etc. How do you get access down to the river? How do you?
Well, I gave up on a certain area because even in rainy years, it's not always possible to get access or to travel on the river. I was really lucky. We did the canoeing part of the project, over a couple of wet winters. And mostly I focused between San Miguel and Greenfield. Because looking at Google Maps, I was able to see places where the river passed closely to a road. And then I had to get permission from landowners, some who were not at all friendly, and some who were more than casually and then others who are enthusiastic about letting me use it.
Oh, good.
So we actually went between Bradley and San Ardo just before Getty Landing. And then we took 2 trips between San Lucas and King City, and 1 trip between King City and Greenfield, and then 2 trips between the mouth of the river and the waste management.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what the focus of, you're looking at the river, are you just looking at landscapes, or do you have a particular focus? Are you looking at the life on the river, which is quite abundant, actually? What is the focus of your project?
Well, I went kind of open, other than looking at it. A lot of my art has been about ordinary situations, circumstances, things that people do that can be seen as exceptional if you put them in the right context. And I felt that's what I wanted to do for the Salinas River, was really show how beautiful the valley and how vibrant the life is on the river. So we did see a lot of animals along the river.
What did you see?
Deer, bald eagle, snowy owl, herons, little wild pigs swimming in the river, cattle, turtles. I didn't see fish. We saw them jump, but we didn't actually see them under the water.
Oh, okay. How about any coyotes?
No, we did not see coyotes, and we didn't see pumas or that kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you're really asking people to look carefully. I mean, one of Steinbeck's favorite words is participation, of course, and to really see the landscape that he loved as well. So is that your purpose in this book, to have people really participate in the life of the river?
Yes. I feel very, as a former art teacher and art history person, I feel we are confronted with a lot of visuals nowadays, far more than we were back in the mid-1800s when Bodmer did his trip. But we take looking as an exercise, as a 5 senses exercise, way too casually. And I think that, you use your computer and you're confronted with looking at a lot of images, but it's a lot of vicarious, voyeuristic looking, rather than submerging yourself into what you're looking at in a real way. And that's one of the sort of subplots of the book is, this is a wonderful way to see where you live, to really participate in it fully. Smelling, listening. I mean, the river looks so different when you're in a canoe on it from when you're looking at it from the highway.
Right. Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I've done a little bit of that myself. Would you say that your book is going to have an environmental focus, and are you going to be looking at some of the issues of water in the county, or are you trying to avoid that? Because obviously there's, at some points people are worried about contamination, or are you just trying to have people see what exists, the flora and fauna?
I'm certainly not, that we want this to be a wild and pristine river, because there's a lot in the book that's about agriculture and showing people working in fields and agriculture. I do think I'm looking more at history. Do we really want to lose this beautiful thing that has been here for so long? We have to maintain it. I mean, it's a loosely environmental thing. I just don't want the river to be ruined. And I think however we choose to use it, we should be using it very carefully. So I didn't approach it from an environmentalist point of view. I didn't have an agenda that was an environmentalist agenda. It was more respect for this really beautiful resource that benefits everyone here. That's all.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So River Road certainly has become more and more popular.
Yes.
And it's a lovely stretch, starting at Spreckles. And, well, one place to start is at Spreckles. So have you done much along River Road? Or are you looking at the intersection of humans and the environment along that stretch of road?
I showed some of my work to a friend of mine, Sabino Lopez, who is a former field worker who works with CCA in Salinas.
Can you say what CCA is?
I always forget. I think it's Center for Community Action or something like that. It's a wonderful organization that's focused on helping Latinos in the Salinas Valley gain more political action and political clout, and looking out to protect workers, to work on housing and things like that. So he looked at him and goes, well, Janet, the river isn't just, you know, landscape. There are people here too.
Right.
And so I started putting more people in, because he's pointed out that even Bodmer has pictures of Native Americans and other people in his work. So River Road is, I love it. I've been driving, I drive up and down it frequently. And it's interesting because I've also been in Cattleman and Metz, and the difference between each side road that goes along the eastern and western side of the valley, they're just different. They have different personalities. But yes, I've gotten to know one of the vineyard owners pretty well, and it turns out her property goes right down to the river. So I've been able to explore the river that way, very conveniently, not with a boat, because for many of the years since I got to know her, it's been dry. But also one evening I went up into the hills behind her vineyard at around 5 in the evening, and right before the time change. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. I can't paint it. But it was just how quiet it was, how the light shifted across the valley, the shadows the Santa Lucia Mountains made. There's this kind of purple atmosphere. The first time I was there, it was overcast, so it was sort of purple, silvery atmosphere. And just looking at the valley for an hour and a half, 2 hours, in that light was something very special, and the sound of the birds and dogs barking. I mean, it was, I can really see, you know, what it's all about and why.
Well, of course, it was a river that Steinbeck loved, as I said, and he said of Mice and Men, or at that stretch near Soledad. George and Lenny take refuge, of course, in the river. And it's something that Steinbeck himself did a lot, because he loved the river, and he used to ride his pony to the river. And there's a lovely story called The Summer Before, which is about being on the banks of the river. And so I think it's a resource and a scenery that we just ignore too often. I mean, I crossed the river on my way to Salinas, and I loved the full waters this winter. So did you get to paint any of that?
Well, I had painted so many paintings of the trestles and bridges and everything. I didn't paint that, but I did, in the process of making the book, I had some old pictures of the dry river at Chualar Bridge. Easy place to get into the river and to see the river. And I had rejected one of those as being not that interesting for the book. I had to eliminate a lot of the 200 drawings and paintings I had. This year I went and took a picture of it, super full, just surging underneath the bridge. So I decided to change, and I actually am going to put the old picture, the dry river, and I took coincidentally a photograph that's almost identical of the river, absolutely full. So I did see it. I made a trip to LA in the winter, so I looked over bridges at Bradley, East Garrison, San Lucas, all the places I was familiar with, just to see that surging river. Actually, the first year I started, 2011, there was a huge rain. And the river was very full that year as well.
So you're going to do some contrasting scenes in your book?
At least with this.
Oh, good.
This one, just because. Also, I got a picture of the river actually going into the ocean, which you usually don't get because the sand at that river mouth refuge goes straight across. It doesn't, it's like a dam. So really the mouth of the river is like a lagoon. But this year they had to breach it because they had so much water. So that was pretty exciting to hike out there and be able to get the picture. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a fascinating project. And so you're going to obviously combine words and images.
Yeah.
Are you trying to explain the history of the river then in some of your passages, or the scenery? What is your purpose in the words? And I know you said you've cut back on words and expanded images. Can you say just a little bit about that?
Well, there are two types of words that are going to be in. Some will be captions, and giving historical information very briefly, not going into a long history. But the pictures of Spreckles will explain how it was a sugar beet factory, and it was a factory town and all of that. But there will be descriptive passages that will be handwritten by me and included in the book, like notes from a journal.
Oh, good.
And those will be things I either didn't get good photographs of or things I want to describe visually.
Oh, okay. Well,
so two types.
So the book will be ready, do you think, soon?
Well, I'm hoping to get it all completed this fall sometime.
Oh, good.
Yeah, close to it.
And then publisher?
Yes, I'm going to self-publish with a printer in Santa Cruz, and they've done another book for me, a little bilingual fairy tale, Russian-English fairy tale of Pushkin's story about the golden fish. So I probably do a limited edition of hardback and then have paperback eventually available as well. So saving all my money to do this.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's obviously a project that you love and you've poured a lot of energy and time into it. So I can't wait to see the book. I have seen some of your drawings, of course, and we will carry the book at the National Steinbeck Center and certainly welcome you there for a book signing when you're ready with the book.
Hope so.
Because
I'd love that.
And the intersection between art and place and how we observe is I think something that is very close to what Steinbeck is always thinking about. So, well, do you have any final words that you want to say about your project?
Well, just very quickly, I never thought I had any relationship to Steinbeck at all. And I've been surprised rereading some of his books, and especially the travel book when he went to Russia, just his approach to that, being in Russia, the way he was so open and curious and everything. And I thought, well, I'm more like him than I thought I was. So that was a kind of big surprise. And I certainly love the valley as much as he did, in my own way.
Oh, that's really interesting, because he did say he went into Russia open and just wanted to see. So that's kind of your approach to the Salinas River.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Janet. That was really interesting to hear about your project, and I can't wait to see the book and have the book in the store.
Well, thank you. This was a great opportunity to talk about it with you and with other people.
Yeah, thank you.